These are the cuties that we are going to color, and I will draw them again, but I will try to make them look changing little features, changing so we could make them look like females. Obviously, let's start with the face. That's what I always start with. My basic shape would be round, and I would love to draw them in the 3/4 look. So let's try and just remember where all the lights are going to go. Remember that your body would also follow the 3/4 view lines in this case. And once we've established where the eyes and everything else will go, we could do a little bit of a pointy chin and puffy cheeks for even cuter look. And for the curl, I decided that I would go with the round eyes, just 2 circles, and you can already see how it changes the appearance of the bear. Of course, if we add the cute eyelashes, it will instantly make the look very cute and adorable. I draw my eyes pretty much all the time like this. I always add the light because I believe that it makes the eyes look a little bit more, or maybe a lot more expressive. So then we will add all the details to the face, like this little nose and the eyebrows. Eyebrows can change the look of the face dramatically, but in my case here, they would have like neutral position since the bear is smiling. The rosy cheeks. I've also noticed that we need to move this eye, and I'm going to use this selection tool and make my eye smaller and move it a little bit. Adding the thicker eyelash line, we again make our character look even cuter. So I'm happy with the result. Now on a different layer, I would be drawing Bear's body. Basically, just like a beanbag resembling the oval shape, you could twist and turn and experiment with your characters, because very often if you do so, I find that really amazing things happen. We could come up with the result that we were not even planning to have. I would draw these characters in a way they're supposed to be in the illustration, since they are part of an illustration. They are supposedly waving to the princess who is selling ice cream. Not selling, she's actually delivering free ice cream. And so one hand would be waving and another would be holding the ice cream. Again, we remember that this is a 3/4 view, and I find that adding this cute details also help to bring our illustration home. And especially if it's a children's book illustration, kids, they love looking at different details. You probably remember yourself, oops, my assistant was always there. You remember yourself when you were looking at the book illustrations, and the second time, the third time, you would just go ahead and see more and more of those details. And since I am drawing on different layers, it's very easy for me to just go ahead and change a few things. In this case, I want the belly to be not that round and the head to be bigger. Also, big eyes, big head, they are signs of a cute character. I have also drawn the tail for this bear, even though we wouldn't really see it, but I think it's kind of cute. And when we are drawing the bunny, rabbit, hare, who could that be, right? Again, we're gonna draw the basic shape, which is oval in this case, and like 2 circles, which would be our puffy cheeks. I would be drawing the 3/4 view again. And in this case, I think that since our character is taller, so that all the shapes are longer. But doing the pointy chin and the puffy cheeks again is a sign of a cute character. And I also will try to achieve the girl's look. So the eyes would look bigger than on the version than in the version on the left, and I would add the eyelashes, the cute nose, and the mouth in this case. When you are drawing the characters in the 3/4 look, again, always try to figure out where all the elements on the face is going to go. And because it is digital illustration, there is a wonderful advantage for us to change a lot of things later on, and it makes our drawing experience faster. The rosy cheeks and another eye. So the eye that is in 3/4 look is supposedly smaller because it is further away from us. And here I already see that my face looks crowded in this case, and I would need to make it bigger because right now it doesn't really look the way I like it. And the teeth look a little bit creepy, to be honest with you. We can even go completely with a different mouth, and I will try this. I'll show you how we could do a different mouth as well. Same thing for the eyes. I would add the light, and again, digital illustration. Let's make the eyes smaller and put it where it's supposed to be. And I also need now to come back to the mouth and make the teeth smaller too, because we want it to look cute, not weird in this case. And again, here I need to make my face bigger, and because I see that these eyes are supposed to be further down there, I think it looks much better this way. And now there's not enough face for us, so let's just make it bigger too. And yes, so it took us a while to work on the head with this character. All right. Okay, so now I will continue with drawing the ears. And you probably noticed, and I didn't notice this before, actually, before I started filming this video, that I would always zoom in and zoom out on the illustration, because when I draw, I kind of sometimes look at it very closely, and to me, it's important to look at the illustration further down, further away, because it helps me. It helps me to see things more clearly. So for the body, in this case, we're using the same sort of beanbag, and because this character is taller, the beanbag is going to be elongated, so to say. I'm trying to get the same look with the vest that the rabbit has on the left picture. Also on the left picture, I didn't include the tail for the bear, because if you look at them closely, they're so close together that the tail basically would be like on top of the bunny, and the rabbit. I really need to figure out who that is. And I didn't include it there because I didn't want them to overlap each other. That's why I didn't include it there, but I added it to the bunny. And even though, again, we wouldn't really see the tail from this angle because it's very small, it will be in the back. But if it makes our illustration a little bit cuter, we could bend the rules a little bit as well. And the same thing for this character. She will be, in this case, she will be waving at the princess and holding ice cream in another hand. For the animal's hands, we really could go as simple as this. I would call these hands like mittens. You don't need to draw fingers if you don't want to. So basically, one basic shape and like a thumb. That's what I do for the animal's hands. And the ice cream. So, and you see again, this girl looks like a girl compared to the illustration on the left. So I hope you enjoyed this drawing process that I was doing. Again, I forgot to show you a different mouth. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a bunny's mouth. It could be a mouth like this. It could be open, and I think it also looks kind of cool. Now let's color. I would always put my sketch in the reduced opacity, so to say, mode. I will choose my color pencil number 2. This is my pencil, but you could use a 6B pencil from the standard Procreate brushes. And I love these brushes that I created. I created them specifically for children's illustration because I could use them, as you could see right here, basically just filling up the shape as I would do with a regular pencil, or I could fill in the shape the fast way, and that would also work. So I will do the same thing for the rabbit right now. But even if I fill in the color, I will still have that textured edge that I really love. And very important tip here, guys. If you're drawing for a client, always make sure that all the elements that are under other elements are colored. So if I get rid of the bear, I won't have the blank space on the rabbit, because objects tend to move in the process of the book design later on. So the way I'm going to draw the eyes, basically, if you watched any of my drawing videos, I just fill in the basic shape with white. I sometimes use it with the brush like a monoline or a studio pen, but here I have a texture brush, my color pencil number 2. And I decided that I would use the blue color for the bear's eyes. And then with the clipping mask, I would draw an oval that wouldn't go anywhere, right? Because it's a clipping mask. Clipping mask means that this layer will be clipped to the previous layer, so it won't go anywhere where there is no white layer, not white drawing on that layer. So and the way I draw my eyes, I would do another layer. So this is, we just did the iris, and then I would need to do a pupil, and normally it will be a darker shade of the iris color. So in this case, dark blue. Then it's just another oval in my case. And what I would do next is just adding the depth to the eye. And that's basically almost the way I do my illustrations. Then on another layer with another clipping mask, I would add with the studio pen, you have it at a standard Procreate brush, would add the eyelash sort of line, and I wouldn't add any eyelashes, because it's a boy in my case here. I would just carefully make the line on top. See, our eye actually is looking so much better. Now, in between the eyelash line layer and the pupil layer, I would add a little bit of gray, and I would use Gaussian blur. So this is like a shadow I have supposedly under the eyelids. Then I would do the alpha lock in the pupil. I would choose the color even darker than the pupil, and with the soft brush, there's also soft standard brush in Procreate, I would add this shadow. I would do the same for the iris. Alpha lock means that you are drawing exactly in that layer and you wouldn't go anywhere, but you can change it later on. And the same thing I would also do in the iris on top. Now I would do one more layer in between the pupil and the iris, and I choose a really bright color, like bright blue, and I would do another oval. See, it kind of makes sure that the pupil is more established, so to say, that's the right word. And again, I would also always add my light to the eye. So basically, this is how I would do my eye, and now I would do exactly the same thing on the other side. Once we're done with our eyes, I normally always organize my work, and I would even name the layers. I'm not wasting any time right now on it. Let's do some details. With the creative pencil, I have created a new layer on top of my base color, and I put it in multiply mode. Multiply mode basically would turn your color into a more saturated color, darker, and it doesn't always work for me in the way it's suggested. I might even reduce the opacity very often, but in this case, it kind of looks good. See, I have a little bit not that good of work with coloring, so I will change that. Again, this is digital. We could just choose the eraser brush and fix everything in here. So what I'm doing right now is I don't normally use any line work in traditional sense of outlining every single object in my work, but here I would use it just to separate the objects that overlap. So the belly, the hand that is on top of the belly, the hand that is attached to the body. Now two legs are completely together, so I need to do that as well. And here where the belly is going to be. So adding this little details would make your illustration look a lot better as a final rendered piece. All right, so okay, we just continue doing that, but we use common sense, right? So if I want to add some on the bottom, I would add some on the bottom. I don't want to, there are obvious rules for so many things in drawing, perspective, light and color, but when our work is stylized, we could sometimes bend those rules. I am by no means saying that you don't even need to know them. You do. You obviously do, but with your drawing, especially children's illustration, do not forget to experiment. Do not forget to feel sort of free and just let it be. Or, you know, like they say, dance like nobody sees you. So try to draw like nobody will ever see that piece. Just let yourself go, because sometimes we become so tense with what we could add to the artwork or not that it actually doesn't make it look very well. So I just could set the example here. So far everything is pretty clear. I choose the darker brown where I'm coloring the nose. When I got my very first order for the client, I literally couldn't draw because I was like, usually when I draw for myself, I just do whatever I want. But in here, I don't know what the client wants or what I can or cannot do. Is it too much decor? I've put in my illustration too many details. But so that actually, I felt sort of so shy doing things. And of course, it passed after like my third maybe sketch. And once I figured out that the client actually wanted to see my work, right? So it was good, but it happens. Now I would choose my perfect pencil here. It's just a different texture. You could use the same 6B pencil to add the rosy chicks. That's what I call them. And now I'm going to work on the mouth. I actually do my mouth for the characters again, pretty much always the same way. I would choose the base color for the lips. In this case, it wouldn't look that dark because once I remove the sketch layer, it would look much better. And then on under this layer, I would choose a darker color for the mouth. And later on, somewhere in this video, would also add a shadow to it. And then I would also add the teeth if you're adding that the teeth in your art under the lips layer. And I usually do them in white. And I would also add the tongue. Basically, this would be lighter than the lips. In this case, very, very light pink. See? And I really like how it looks. Uh, Under normal circumstances, I would group this layer and name it mouth, but not right now. I forgot to add the dividing line to the ear, and here you see when you have multiply mode and you try to pick the same color and you click on whatever you drew in multiply mode, it's going to get it even darker. So if you need the same color you came up with in multiply mode, just pick the base color because this is the color that was multiplied. So now the places where obviously would be like the darkest here inside the ear, and I think doing pause, coloring the pause here. I'm struggling with this function. I actually struggle all the time with this. I don't know, do you? It is a very good function, I understand, but this whole thing happens, this dance I call it, happens all the time. So I would color it like this way it's so easy for us to see that it's a pour. It gives a very nice accent. Now I would add a few lines here and there. And when you're drawing, again, I'm just going to come back here so you could always come back to things. You could always change them. Let's also add the lines here where our hand is bent, and then again, some examples to the paw. And now I will choose the brighter color, and under this layer with the lines, I will be drawing the belly. Because we have the hand that is on top of the belly, I won't really use a selection tool in this case. I'll just color everything in, and later on I would just erase whatever we don't need. I find that this is a very convenient way for me to do it. And here we done with the belly. I really love how it turned out. Also, I decided to add a little contrast to our face, coloring this lower part of the face in the light brown color, same as the belly. And right now, another mistake, guys, here you see the line that I have that didn't actually make it where it's supposed to be. So we want the lines to actually not overlap too much anything, but also if the line is supposed to reach some place, make sure it reaches that place. So let's go back to this layer and finish this line up. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to add a little light. Okay, something's wrong. I'm on a wrong layer. This layer in the multiply mode, so whatever light color I choose will be darker. See, I love when the illustrations have the small details that actually make work so much more prettier. I also love adding some light behind the eyes. In this case, this is the light, but sometimes if I'm drawing, say, maybe a girl and she has some white skin, I might even add some shadow behind the eyes. So basically anything that would make the eyes pop. Also, I'm using the smudge tool here to sort of smooth the ends of the lines I have created, but for that purpose, you could also use an eraser. I also love to add a little light either on top of the eyebrows or also like behind the eyebrows, so whatever makes them pop again. Here we add a little detail to the paws and the ears, and I hope you would agree with me that this detail makes the illustration a lot more interesting. All right, so far I'm pretty happy with the result, and now let's make our color darker, and under the layer with the line we will choose a texture, just a texture brush. I use my own brush, which is called shade brush, but you could use I will look it up and find something similar for you in Procreate. And we would just add the shadow. In here I am using selection tool, so the way you use it, you choose a selection tool and you choose the object that you only want to work at. Then you choose the brush, the color, you can change all that while being in this selection. Also, when you're choosing a selection, you could let go and come back to it, so you don't need to just hold it all the time. And conveniently for me, I right away added the light to the hand as well. So logically, all the light is going to go on the places that are either like directly under the sun or somewhere under the sun, or just they are vortex or they're on top. In my case here will be the top of the hands, the cheeks of the face, the top of the head, the top of the paws, and yes, and here I would also choose the area that I want to work in, only this area, and then I would change the color to the dark brown because I'm going to add the shadow right now. And under the belly, obviously, right, since the belly is on top of the leg, so there's like a shadow there. And here where the legs are together, let's just make the brush a little bit smaller. And all right, where else? Oh, my assistant is here. He's always here. Now I'm going to do another selection because I want my not white, my light belly to come into contrast with the rest of the body. See, just like that, it looks, it pops, actually, brings it home. And here I need to continue the shadow, obviously. To me, working with light and shadow is the process. It's a back and forth process. So you could have applied your first shadow layer and then you apply the light, and then you definitely see that some places need darker shadow or more light. So you can't, I wouldn't just do it. I mean, it depends on your style. So this is the way I do it. And I always tell people you don't need to do exactly as I do. Use it as a guidance or the inspiration, motivation, but try to experiment and see what works for you. The reason I love watching tutorials or videos where other people draw is the way it kind of works for my brain. We forgot this part of the ear, which we're going to add right now. So when I'm looking at others people's tutorials, my brain right away gets so filled with ideas, with this readiness to go and do something. So I really, really love watching what other people do, draw, create, how they do it. So if you have maybe more questions about my drawing process, the way I get ideas, let me know. So now we are in the step where I'm choosing the brush that is a little darker than my belly color. And I would use my brush that I really, really love. There is a similar brush actually in Procreate. I believe it's called Hessian or something. I'm going to write it here. And it gives you like right away you're like hatching with a pencil. And I would add the texture to the body, but the way I will add the texture would also relate to the shadow and light. So the lighter parts would be light, the darker parts would be darker. And I think that if you are trying to add some texture to your artwork, if you want to elevate your style this way, it not necessarily needs to be done. This is just what I am into right now. You could do this. By the way, if you hate filling up the main color of your objects with textured brush, you could easily do it with a regular studio pen or monoline brush and then add texture to your illustration still just by using textured brushes. Now I decided to add texture on sort of all the other surfaces of the bear, and I believe that with every single stroke right now, I achieve the look I really want to have with my bear. If we just remember how it looked 10 minutes ago, we will see a great difference. And yeah, see all the little details that we have here. I believe they look great. So I'm gonna choose my creative pencil and add the touches that I always add, sort of like on top of everything. And I believe that they also like finish up the work very, very well, which is the light, yeah, which is these lines are way lighter than all the other artwork, and I feel like when I add them to the illustration, it makes the objects, things on it actually pop even more. And usually I would put them behind the nose, under the mouth, to separate the head from the body. Um, I would also add them behind the eyes. And here's finally the moment where I would use Alpha Lock where the mouth is, and using the soft brush and the darker color, I would add this shadow. And I think it looks very, very well. I don't know, I just love it. So in here right now, I decided to add the black lines on the bottom of the eyes, and I think it also makes the work look better. So again, this is the moment when you just need to know when to stop and say, hey, okay, this is it, that's enough. Here, I want to add a little bit more shadow with the soft brush and the darker color to the inside of the ears. And see, it kind of makes it look better in my case too. And I would also add a little bit to the paw, a little bit, not this much. And now is the moment in the illustration where I see that I need more shadows, and you see how dramatically it's going to change the whole look just by adding this darkest shadow to some places would make me finally completely happy with the artwork that we're doing. And you could use this methods of coloring to basically anything that you're drawing, anything that you're coloring, right? And I'm sure with experimenting and again using your choice of brushes, or maybe even my brushes, because one person will draw one way with the brush, another person will draw completely differently, and that's the beauty of it. The last thing we need to do is just add the ice cream. So the ice cream again is behind his hand, but I would just draw it on top. So I have it perfectly fine aligned from top to bottom. And similarly, when we were removing the belly light, that's the convenient way of her to do it. I'm trying to like pack her further away. We would just erase whatever we don't need to be there. So I suppose this is some mint ice cream he's holding. I don't really like mint ice cream. I'm more of a vanilla ice cream type of girl. and something very plain. No, no any hazelnuts, no chocolate chips, anything like this. No cookie dough. I don't like that. All right, so you see, I think this bear came out really, really cool. Of course, you could use less texture if you want to, but I think this is a good combination. So I would just group everything and name this layer as the bear, and we will move forward right now to coloring. I think it's the hair, you know. I think, yeah, it's not a bunny. He's too big for a bunny. All right, so similarly, right, I am going to start with the eyes. And the eyes, I would first color it with the white color, just the whitest white there is. And I'm using a texture brush. By the way, I decided to choose the green color for his eyes. And same thing I would do the iris in green and the pupil in darker green. I just also wanted to mention that when we have texture brushes and we want to move the object and maybe change its angle a little bit, it will not look very as bad as when you have the object drawn, say, in Studio Pen, right? Because it's not a texture brush. So that's why I actually love textured brushes for that very reason. But if you're drawing for a client, your work has to be flawless, and you will, if you need to transfer, change the angle of the elements, I would always do it in Photoshop, or actually, which is probably faster, I'll just redraw the whole thing. So I'm adding the pupil in darker green color, and I'm pretty happy with the colors. We could even copy it, and see here I twisted it a little bit, and we see that the edges are not as sharp and crisp as on the right. All right, but that's not maybe that important in here, since the eyes are very small, and the compared to the whole illustration, they are very small, but still. Same thing I'm doing, I'm adding the gray shadow, which maybe you would even decide to leave it as is and not use Gaussian blur. Maybe you would decide to omit the shadow thing altogether. Maybe you'll change the color of it, but that works for me. I guess it makes more for like some dreamy eyes, so I don't know. Again, I'm going to use the color darker than the pupil and add this depth in it, and another color first darker than the iris that is going to go on the bottom, and another maybe even a little darker in here, and another color lighter that would go on top. So this would be my eyes, and the final touch would be to add the light. The light, again, you could add it with Studio Pen or any textured brush. Just don't forget that your light's supposed to be under the layer with the shadow. We can even copy the light, so just to make sure it's completely the same. It's faster this way. So let's group and forget about the eyes for a second. We will do exactly the same thing as we did with the bear. We'll create a new layer on top of the base color, choose the brush, and put the layer in a multiply mode. And don't forget the clipping mask. We will separate the objects from each other. So a little bit of hair here would be separated. The inside of the ears would be separated, and so on and so forth, basically. We have ears overlapping, so we need to show that. And this way we will create actually a very good look, right? To separate the head, obviously. To separate the hand, because we again have one hand on top of the belly. And yeah, so inside the ears, similar with the bear, we would color the insides carefully. See, me and that function. That function. Struggling again. So see, I filled the color in. It's so much faster. You can even leave it as is if you like the look, or I still try to smooth it a little bit, but I still have my texture in the main line, right? I would choose a dark color, similarly to the bear. It's the same exactly process here, and I would color in the nose, and in here I see I have a little like very sharp edge on the nose. We don't want that, so let's just get rid of it real fast. Perfect. Now let's add the rosy cheeks. I use the Perfect pencil for this because it's not that dense and it has very fine, funny, fluffy contour. So now I am going to come back to my pencil. In this case, whoops, that's definitely not what's supposed to be red. You can use 6B pencil in this case, and I would even put these dots. Very often I put them on my animal characters, and I sometimes even add the whiskers. You could do that as well. Now let's finally, under this layer, draw the mouth. And even though it's a different shape of the mouth, I would go ahead and do it exactly as I did with the mouth for the bear. So I would choose the base color for my lips. Yeah, I'm literally meditating here. And then I would choose a darker color to do the inside of the mouth. Darker color actually also brings a very good contrast when we're doing the teeth. I would do teeth in Studio Pen brush, and obviously they would be white. And I think the look actually is pretty cool. And the lighter pink would go again to illustrate. So that's the bow tie. All right, so we're gonna make it pink. Perfect. And the next step for us would be to do the vest. I would make it in lighter colors, similarly how we were doing with the bear's belly. And again, I would just color it in all the places I need to. This is actually a mistake, you guys. I would change it later because it's a 3/4 view and we wouldn't see this much of an opening where the sleeve is here. Yep, that's how I was supposed to fix it, on his left side. Okay, so we're done with the vest, and again, same way, I would just erase it. It is so much easier for me because now when I don't have them on one layer, I could easily work shadows and light, and if I would just constantly have to go back and forth using the selection tool or something. Now I also want to apply the same brighter gray color. It's actually probably my first time, no, second. I also drew a mouse using gray colors because normally I don't really use them in my work much. But here we made them look pretty by adding some green eyes and pink cheeks and pink bow tie. So it doesn't look dull, kind of looks pretty playful to me, pretty happy look. And same thing we did with the bear, we would add some details. I love to contrast the dark areas with the very bright areas because again, it brings the object up, giving it a lot more beauty and expression. So as I have mentioned, we just use a razor here instead of the smudge brush, but you could do whatever you are used to. And I would right away add some shadow to the mouth using Alpha Lock and the soft brush. I believe for this type of shadow, soft brush is the king, queen. You can't really beat that. Okay, so now let's choose the very dark, not the soft brush though, the very bright, bright color for the light on the nose. And you see how much better it looks already again. I mean, I love those little strokes which make the illustration look better. So, and I hope you do too. Now let's work a little bit on the vest. I would, since the vest here, we would carefully, I could have used the Alpha Lock, but I didn't want to do this because I would apply shadow. And if I do that, everything would be on the same layer and this line that I'm doing would be smudged with the shadow. So I carefully doing this just with a clipping mask. And later on I would use the alpha lock to work inside the vest. So on the new layer, I would use the darker gray. We would be adding, similar to the bear situation, we would be adding the shadows. Sometimes if your brush is too dark, you could either change the color or reduce its opacity. It's also a very fast way. So here on the left hand, it's behind the bear, so it would be darker, obviously. So I'm just trying to logically figure out where we would apply it. So again, I would apply some under the belly. Here, I could even not use any selection tool and just do it carefully like this, a little bit on the tail, under the vest, of course. And you see how the vest kind of like pops because we again use the contrast between light and dark. And here I am using the eraser tool, but if you hold on to the brush, say you're drawing with a textured brush and then you want to erase, you hold on to the eraser brush and it will choose the brush you're drawing with to erase. That's also very convenient tool, since when you're drawing with texture brush and then you want to erase with the monoline, it's kind of look weird. All right, so now I would get rid of the sketch layer because see, but here in this case I don't need a texture brush. The mono brush would be better. Once you're actually done with all the elements, it's a good idea to get rid of the sketch layer so you could see better everything. Okay, so let's add a little bit more light to the tip of the tail, obviously on top of the ears, here on top of the face, the cheeks, the hand, here, here, and a little bit on the belly and the legs. Okay, so we're almost done, guys, almost done. And I find it's kind of cool that I have two characters because I could show the same thing twice on two different characters, and I think it's good to understand really what I'm doing here. With an alpha lock, I would add light and shadow just to this hair object, hair situation, or whatever that is I drew, honestly. And now with another alpha lock, as promised, I would add light and shadow to the vest. So under the bear's hand, I would add a little bit more shadow. I now see that I could have done more shadow under the bear's hand, but it's very contrast compared to the, a lot more saturated compared to the bunny or whoever that is. We haven't decided, so it's actually fine. And with the lighter color, I would add the light. And you see, I could easily add the light without touching the hand that is on top of the vest, and it's very convenient. So actually, yep, we're almost there, guys. Almost brought this home. What I would do right now is I would choose my pencil with the very bright and do the same thing we did with the bear. I would add those final touches with the very light color, and I would add them pretty much in the same place to divide the head from the body. And maybe you could even get more creative and use like strokes like this. Why not? Whatever comes to you, we experiment, and we could even put some texture to the supposedly fluffy tail and a little bit of here. And where else? Which we could also add, yeah, like this. Here is also gonna be good. Again, the contrast between the dark and the light. I think that we would need to make the ice cream vanilla ice cream, since I like vanilla ice cream so much. Let's just work on the ice cream real fast. On the new layer, on top of everything, we would add the ice cream following the sketch. Another good tip, guys, make sure your sketch is as flawless as it could get, because it would save you a lot of time in the end. See here, I see that, yep, I needed a darker color for the ice cream itself, for a darker color for the stick, and the ice cream, I just chose the brightness and increased the brightness for the ice cream because it was blending too much with the vest. So this is another tool you could use. Instead of changing the color, you could go to the brightness and contrast option, and over there, even with the you could increase the set or decrease the saturation, contrast, and you could even change the color completely by changing the hue. And that is also a great tool. And again, as we did with the berry, the very final touch, I would choose the darkest color we've used so far, gray, and I would add this final contrast touches to whatever I feel like it's supposed to be. And again, even if it's too dark, sometimes you see that you overdid it. Instead of, say, recoloring it, again, you could either increase the brightness or decrease the opacity. And then you play with the toggle and see which option works best for you. All right, so now I'm going to, again, make this a group. And then I usually, if this is illustration like this, I would flatten them, but I also keep all the layers. And as promised, this is the part of this illustration that I would also share on my channel, how I'm drawing everything else, and then like the princes and all. So see, this move I would only do in Photoshop if that was for the book, because we're still resizing the characters. But for here, for Instagram, it just works perfectly fine. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Don't forget to watch this other illustration about Free Princess Ice Cream Express. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Check out the brushes that I have used. Maybe you will really like them. But if not, just use whatever you have. That's the most important thing. All the best, guys. Put the thumbs up if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. All the best.